Even if you're an avid tabloid consumer, you still might not know the true extent of Bijou Phillips' shady behavior. From brawling with a Playboy Playmate to ruthlessly bullying her co-stars, here's a deep dive into her long history of alarming behavior. Bijou Phillips is the daughter of California dreamin' singer John Phillips and the multi-talented Genevieve Waite, so it's not too surprising that she was able to snag her own NYC apartment when she was only 14 years old. It didn't take long for the tabloids to develop an unhealthy obsession with her, frequently reporting on her evening exploits and risque behavior. As it often goes with such publications, some of the claims were embellished or straight up false. However, in an interview with Howard Stern, Bijou confirmed that there was some truth to one of the many infamous tales told about her. She did indeed stab a male friend in the leg with a kitchen knife. It's not exactly what you might think, though. She told Stern that it started off as a joke where she'd climbed on top of him and pretended to stab him after he'd made her angry by pinning her down and wrestling with her.
And he kicks me. And I block myself, and he hits the knife. And he's not mad, and he totally loves me. He knows it's his fault.
Phillips was admittedly a bit spoiled as a child, telling Vanity Fair that her famous father bought her puppies and horses. She also wasn't the most financially responsible 14-year-old. After gaining access to her father's credit card, she treated herself to a spending spree without worrying about how he would react when he found out about it. She told Index magazine, "I would have food delivered and furniture delivered, and I charged about 10 grand on the card." A few months later, her stepmother gave her a heads up that John had evidently seen his credit card bill. The teen then devised a plan inspired by her recent first-time experience doing heroin. She said, "I decided to tell them I was a heroin addict and that I'd used the card to buy furniture to sell for cash to buy drugs." So instead of getting in serious trouble, she got her dad's sympathy and was sent to a rehab center popular with rockers. She revealed that she saw Vince Neil and Billy Powell while she was there. One of Phillips' frequent haunts during her reckless teen years in New York was Spy Bar. She told Index magazine she could go there as a minor because she knew the owners. She said, "They would punish me as if they were my parents when I did something bad." However, Phillips came up with a way to get around her temporary bans from the establishment, telling Black Book that she would sneak in by wearing a wig. According to Phillips, her bans were often the result of her antics at Spy Bar capturing the tabloid's attention. One example is a 1997 New York Post report in which she was accused of, quote, exposing herself, assaulting a friend with a sex toy, and getting into a brawl. The 17-year-old was reportedly then overheard admitting to her enraged companion that what she had just done was an act of sexual assault. Disturbingly, her final word on the matter was reported to be, quote, deal with it. Phillips told stories that didn't match up when asked about this incident in later interviews. While speaking to Paper in 1997, she insisted that it didn't happen at all, claiming that she wasn't even in New York at the time. But when asked about it on the Howard Stern show a few years later, she admitted that a less violent version of the reported story did happen. She said,
"I didn't really stick it in or anything. I just was pretending."
Oh, you were pretending to, so you didn't really her.
And she was pretending to like it.
In 2004, a feud between the late Casey Johnson and Playboy Playmate Nicole Lenz reportedly took a violent turn when Bijou Phillips got involved. According to Page 6, Johnson and Lenz were once friends and roomies. They had a falling out because Johnson reportedly decided that Lenz made a poor housemate. She also apparently suspected that the model had stolen some of her possessions. So when the two women ran into each other at a Los Angeles club, their shared animosity allegedly manifested physically. While they were reportedly throwing hands, Phillips, who was friends with Johnson, decided to get involved, a witness claimed. Bijou turned around and slapped Nicole Lenz, and they started brawling and screaming. Security was called to break the two up, and Nicole Lenz was kicked out. Soon afterward, Lenz filed a $1 million lawsuit against Phillips and Johnson, who was the heiress to the Johnson & Johnson fortune. It included more details about the altercation, such as the claim that Phillips dragged Lenz by the hair. Legal filings obtained by Page 6 said that Friends star Matthew Perry broke up the brawl.
Hey, Chandler, what are you doing here?
The next day, Phillips purportedly saw Lenz at an event and verbally attacked her. 6 months after Lenz filed her lawsuit, she and Phillips reached a confidential settlement. In the 2000 movie Almost Famous, Phillips plays Estrella Starr, one of the empowered groupies known as Band-Aids. She told the New York Daily News of her character's rock and roll lifestyle, "I know a little about it." But during filming, it sounds like she tried too hard to make life imitate art by introducing her underage co-star Patrick Fugit to her wild world. Fugit later claimed to Vulture, "Bijou Phillips was hell-bent on corrupting me." The actor, who was 15 years old at the time, was spending his time off from filming, doing his homework, and apparently fielding phone calls from Phillips. Fugit said that the older actor invited him to hang out with her and a group of friends one night, and he asked his mom for permission to go. He already knew she wouldn't allow him to leave, which is precisely what he wanted. But first, his mom told him to ask Bijou where she planned on taking him, he recalled. Bijou was like, "We're going out for ice cream." Mom knew what Bijou was up to. However, Phillips did eventually convince Fugit to join her for a joyride in a golf cart that was DreamWorks property, after she allegedly lied and told him she was taking it to the Almost Famous set. Fugit said, "We went driving down Sunset Boulevard in a stolen golf cart. Bijou got in some for that one." Bijou Phillips didn't play the bully in the 2001 Larry Clark movie Bully, but according to her co-star Daniel Franzese, she sure did act like one. In a lengthy 2017 Facebook post, the actor detailed the abuse and humiliation Phillips allegedly subjected him to while they were shooting the movie. He claimed, "She body-shamed me and ridiculed me about my sexuality and physically assaulted me." Franzese further alleged that Phillips wouldn't stop asking him if he was gay. After he told her he was bisexual, she purportedly used this information to taunt and embarrass him. He also said that Phillips body-shamed him when he had to film a shirtless scene. After she apparently made some very mean girls comments about his weight, Phillips' abuse allegedly became physical. Franzese wrote, "She then grabbed my nipple and twisted it hard through my shirt and laughed and walked away." On another occasion, he recalled sitting in front of Phillips, who allegedly started wiping her filthy bare feet on him. When he tried to move away, Phillips allegedly had a violent reaction. He wrote, "She kicked me as hard as she could in the back of the head. To this day, I'm not even sure if she gave me a concussion." Phillips later told TMZ in part, "I am so mortified by this behavior and have contacted Daniel and apologized to him privately. I am not and never have been homophobic." Turns out, Franzese wasn't the only bully co-star Phillips had an opinion about. Speaking of her friend Brad Renfro, she alleged to Index magazine, "He has such a big ego that he makes it difficult to act with him. He'll either way overact the scene and ruin the moment and not let it be fresh for the camera, or he won't even give it to you. He'll just be a dick about it."
What kind of weird shit are you talking about?
While she and Renfro were supposedly close, Phillips admitted to The Guardian that he was the reason she didn't stay in the same hotel as her castmates while they were shooting Bully. She and Renfro had previously worked together on the movie Tart, and she no longer wanted to play the role of his alleged caretaker. Phillips claimed, "He'd come over to my room and want me to put him in the bath and get him sober, or he'd cut himself and we'd be in the hospital at 4 a.m. She admittedly came off as unconcerned about Renfro's substance use issues and even called him a crack baby in her Index interview. But after his 2008 death from an overdose, Renfro became her, quote, brother in an MTV News interview. High on Arrival ranks up there as one of the most shocking celebrity memoirs ever released, thanks to Mackenzie Phillips' claim that she had an incestuous relationship with her late father. While she said that she eventually became a willing, albeit repulsed, participant in the incest, she also alleged that it began with John Phillips assaulting her when she was unconscious. Her story was not easy to tell. In her book, Mackenzie often seems confused and uncertain about what happened because she was doing so many drugs at the time. However, she got no sympathy from Bijou. Instead of accepting the possibility that her half-sister might be telling the truth, Bijou accused Mackenzie of being a liar. She wrote in a series of since-deleted 2009 tweets, "Exploiting the history of our family and the death of our father John Phillips for the release of a book is disgusting. Allegations of sexual abuse are not only hurtful, but malicious when he is not here to defend himself." Bijou revealed that Mackenzie told her about the alleged incest years before she released her memoir. She even blamed a laundry list of her own issues on her older siblings' revelation. She wrote, "It ruined my life and my relationship with my father. I moved out to NYC at 13, started doing drugs, did not talk to my dad anymore." Her admission that she cut their father out of her life suggests that she believed Mackenzie at one point. Black and white director James Toback once told Salon that Bijou Phillips is a, quote, genuine psychopath, but he meant it as a compliment. He said, "You never knew what the f*** she would say or do next. There is no line between her unconscious and her articulation of it and her behavior." While he believed that Phillips' volatile conduct served her well as an actor, it seems that more than one of her former co-stars would beg to disagree. When Daniel Franzese appeared on Heather Matarazzo's podcast, Shut Up and Listen, in 2017, the topic of Franzese's experience being tormented by Phillips came up, which prompted Matarazzo to share her own Phillips horror story. According to the actress, Phillips was allegedly violently hostile towards her the night before they began filming the 2007 horror film Hostel Part 2. Matarazzo claimed Phillips attacked her while the cast was hanging out together at a bar because she had learned that Matarazzo was sober. She alleged, "She had thrown me up against a wall and put her hands around my neck and started choking me and choked me for a good 15-20 seconds. After also claiming that Phillips told her that she was going to make her relapse, Matarazzo said of Phillips' alleged behavior, "I've experienced some horrifying moments in my life and I count that to be one of them." When Bijou Phillips decides to share her opinion about something, she can admittedly come off as being abrasive and judgmental. Back when she was modeling, for example, she explained to the New York Daily News why other models were mistaken in their belief that nepotism had anything to do with her success. She said, "They think I've gotten where I am because of who my family is, not because I'm beautiful and take good pictures. Ugly girls don't become models." An even more eyebrow-raising belief that Phillips holds is one that we only know because she was born to a famous family, married a famous Scientologist, and converted to his religion. While speaking to Paper about the Church of Scientology's aversion to psychiatrists and medication for mental illnesses, she claimed, "My grandparents didn't take any pills and they were fine. Just buck up and get over it. Stop being such a f***ing pansy." When Danny Masterson's sexual assault trial began, Phillips didn't keep her distance from her then-husband while she listened to his accusers share their stories in court. In 2022, the couple was photographed smiling and holding hands outside the Los Angeles Superior Court after Masterson's first trial ended in a mistrial. The year prior, Phillips had smiled for a selfie with Masterson ahead of a pre-trial hearing. At the hearing in question, one of Masterson's victims recalled becoming violently ill after accepting a drink from him before being sexually assaulted. She also said that the actor threatened her with a gun when she tried to fight him off. So it didn't exactly paint Bijou in the best light that she was outside the courthouse grinning before that gut-wrenching testimony. Even after Masterson's conviction, Phillips appeared to attempt to undermine his victim's victory in court by lobbying for him to get a shorter sentence. She showered him with praise in a letter to the judge, which read in part, "Danny has always been against drugs and helped so many friends and colleagues get sober." Mind you, this was after he was accused of drugging his victims. When Phillips' attorney told TMZ that she was divorcing Masterson following his sentencing of 30 years to life behind bars, his statement even included some kind words for the convicted rapist. Mr. Masterson was always present for Ms. Phillips during her most difficult times of her life. Masterson, some might argue in response, was also present for some of his victims' most difficult times. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, help is available. Visit the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network website or contact RAIN's National Helpline at 1-800-656-HOPE 4673.